I want to tell you about Jesus. Yesu Kristo alipoanza kutokelezea sasa. Pia yeye na hao watu walikuwa si wa Kristo, walikuwa watu lakini wao walimuona Kristo. Alafu akasema huyu jamaa, lakini huyu si ni ule mtoto wa Mary huyu. Huyu sasa hivi juzi anzaliwa hapa. Sisi stake ni sijui nani na nani, brother Ken James and what. So it happened even to Jesus Christ. So at that point where a human being thinks that stuff that happened to Jesus is beneath them, there's a problem. Gossip is going to happen. But a mentally healthy person needs to know how to deal with it. I am avoiding the use of the word overcome because vocabulary ya siku hizi hiyo inamaanisha wanaume kujikaza. You understand? But just to deal with it. When I come across gossip, what is going to be my response to it? Is it going to stop me from living my life? Nikuja nijikute nina miaka 70, why didn't you do this and this and you are so gifted? Watu walikuwa wananisengenya. When you're older, it sounds very, very ridiculous. We imagine that you had money, then you were hungry. You didn't buy food, so you starved to death. And why did you starve to death and you had money? Wale watu wa ile duka walikuwa wanasengenya. It's just, if you look at it from a healthy mind, it's ridiculous. But from a person that has just been battered by all types of inakuwa ngumu. So I need to know. I am going. Jesus said, in this world you will have trouble. If you are living without trouble, it's a lie. It's coming. But then take heart. So now I need to know how to take heart. What am I going to do when they tell me, and God forbid, that I have lost a sibling? How am I going to... Nitakaa, siku hizi naona kuna tabia nyingine mbaya wewe. It's not like I have not lost people in my life. I have to death. But if it is going to be 2032, alafu munione bado ninaeka photo ya marehemu Nanhuno ambaye dogi wangu alikufa 1985. Ati now I'm mourning.
It means you have not processed your emotions.
Exactly. They are always going to be close to my heart because I shared a life with them, but I can't be stuck there. I need to be able to move to the next thing. I need to be able to know, what am I going to do wakati kazi itaisha? Because huenda ikaisha. Michael has told us about a time when he had lost his job. I can't be just there like, how did they fire me? What am I going to do when they have promised employment for I don't know how many thousand youths and it has not come? I'm still waiting for laptops. You understand? Zilifika mahali sijui, what will you do? Because acting up is not the thing to do.
Hurry up and begin to teach the children
exactly.
Or rather teach them the correct things.
Yes.
Because that is the only way we are bringing up kids or children with grit and the ability to react or respond to things positively instead of
Here's the thing. Ukitembea njiani, ukiona takataka, someone in front of you threw out their soda bottle. What do you do?
Achukua unaingiza ndani ya gari.
Exactly. Lakini watu wa kawaida wa sasa hivi wanafanya nini? Unapita alafu unasema kuchafu kweli. Hata si watu wana tabia mbaya. That is a challenge. It's a mental health issue. Pick it up and put it in a dustbin. The other day I saw people dustbin imejaa kabisa mpaka ina overflow. Lakini wanakuja tu alafu wanajaribu kubalance hiyo takataka yao.
isianguke chini lakini iko pale.
Hapana bana, we have to develop the ability to deal with issues.
You've mentioned something. Sorry. You've mentioned something of then perhaps I would ask. Then don't you think it's time we had conversations? We talk about how to deal with loss.
Yes.
How to deal. When things don't work out, how do we react to that? When you lose a loved one,
Yeah.
Do we just black out or just continue grieving for the longest time, which also has a consequence to other relationships that we have with other people. When we have certain goals and ambitions, and at some point it doesn't work within the timelines that we wanted, because it's not like it doesn't work, but in zile timelines zenye tumejiwekea, when it didn't work, in the course of the timelines that we wanted, then how do we react to it? Don't you think it's time we had that conversation?
I do think it's time. And I think that wherever, you remember we spoke about transforming Africa one mind at a time? When you get the opportunity to speak about it with someone, go right ahead. The other thing that is happening is that we are getting to a culture of conferences and meetings and conferences and meetings. And people can be very eloquent conference speakers until you ask them for help as an individual and they don't have their notes. Or they, so, yes.
I think that's a very important point. People rarely talk about, especially things like grief. I know on the 12th there's something that will be happening. There's someone who will be launching a book. And purely they'll be talking about grief. Of course, I'll be part of the conversation. And even him, he was like, people rarely talk about loss. Yeah, and especially loss when you lose someone, because people rarely heal. And they also never talk about it. And mazishi kishaisha, after some time, watu kila mtu anaendanga anashika shughuli zake, and then they forget about you. And then now unabaki pale uko like, okay, so now what next? Na utabaki hapo kwa what next until 10 years later, 30 years later, and what Penina is talking about. And again, also when you say like, maybe, don't you think it's time to have this conversation? It is time to have a lot of conversations that we are not having.
Yes.
You know what? And for me, why ITANA was actually is there in the first place is to create safe spaces for conversations that otherwise will not be had. Yeah, and we actually have a lot of these conversations in small setups like this. Hivi tu mnaitana tu kirene kuja tukunywe chai. And Kenyans love food. So for us, ITANA, food unites Kenyans. So the moment you bring food, people will talk. I am telling you, even people, especially tea. Yeah. So we are producers of tea. So it's, and samosa, yeah.
Yes, and
so
samosas.
Even in church, in ICC, I think it is important to start those conversations. I mean, I'm ready to help out where you can, where you want. Like, like just having, I call them ITANA sessions.
Yes.
Where tunakuja tunakaa, sasa leo najisikia kuitana. Leo nataka kuitana manake jana nyumbani kwangu kulikuwa kumewaka moto. And that is where the conversation starts. You will notice that maybe you have an ITANA conversation of like 10 people. Maybe you formed 10 groups of 10s. And then there's someone who never talks. And they will never talk. Not because they don't want to talk, but they get their healing through other people speaking.
I'm looking at a person.
Oh yeah.
That's never talks.
Anaangalia tu hivi, anasikiza tu, anasema tu we. Anatoka hapo akifeel much better. Unaona kumbe yangu ni afadhali kuliko yake. But then atachangia. One thing I've noticed is over time as we do these conversations is that I lost a client in 2019. I had a show, and during my shows, one of the biggest aspects of ITANA is using film and theater as a way to pass information, because people love entertainment. So the moment you use a film and to talk about mental health, after that you say you want to discuss the film, someone will say, no, I have had a similar experience, and that is how the conversation comes on. So I had a session in 2019 of men. The only conversation I've had of men, no, that's the second one, of men. And it was a conversation of men cutting across ages. And that man was the oldest in that session. I think it was around 56 years. And apparently, he's the one who now became the topic of conversation. Because now he was discussing about how he's going through some mental, pressure with his family, with his wife, his son, whatever. And after that, he kept on, Steph, when are we having the next talk? When are we having the next talk? When are we that? And I'm like, even my own mentor called, kwani unafanya tena session lini? People are asking. So people just want a place where they talk. And that was in November. In January, I see like, well, of course, social media. Rest in peace. I'm like, rest in peace. So I called his number. Those people who are in denial, that is me. Called his number. And his daughter picked, and like, yeah, I've seen a rumor. I want to confirm whether it's true. So, yeah. So what happened? He had a stroke. I'm like, okay. So I called my therapist, who was in the session during that day. So she was like, okay, so what did he die of? I told her, stroke. She's like, okay. The depression killed him. Because apparently most people who die of stroke normally have a history of depression. I mean, mental disorders like that. And that really made me feel like, what if we had other conversations? Maybe that would have actually like spared him. So people just want a space where they can talk. There are two kinds of spaces. We have safe spaces where we create safe spaces for each other. And then there's a safe space you create for yourself. Are you even safe with yourself? Do you even trust yourself enough? Ama ni ile tu utachidua kidogo tu hivi. Tutajieka kama. Are you safe with yourself? So we are trying to actually create people who are safe with themselves, and also create physical spaces where people can actually feel safe with each other. So for us, the four walls are very important. Sometimes the four walls, we break them down, and just in a field, because four walls give people anxiety. Yeah, it does. Yeah. So
I love the fact that you are demystifying groups. Again, I think we've usually spoken about this in how we like to group people, like married people pick care, single people pick care, but to have a space where the old man can speak, and the young man can learn, and the young lady there can learn, and a teenager maybe in the group can come and learn. It's very important. Instead of wanting to box people in.
Oh yes.
With again the cultural perception. Wamama wana watoto wataongea peke yao na wana watoto watashare peke yao, so that brings about a lot of, I think, more division than it does.
Yeah. Thank you. She talks about vulnerability. We are all from a culture where we don't like being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Especially men. But it is okay. Yes. Yes. And especially in a world of today, we don't like to be vulnerable with each other, especially with each other.